Welcome to Tight HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing today? And happy Hanukkah for all those that are out there celebrating today. It's the third day of the Festival of Lights there, and it's an amazing time of the year as we go into the holiday season. And I'm Todd DeVoe, and I'm the Director of Emergency Services at Titan HST. And I've been involved responding to disasters since for a long time. So this is my work I do here at Titan HST. I'm also an educator and teaching at the post-secondary level. And one of the things I love to do is learn. I love sharing what I've learned, and it's definitely a passion for me. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about learning and how writing helps people grow. So why write? Well, there's a few different reasons why you should write. And I think as a leader, I think as somebody involved with business continuity, I think somebody involved with emergency management, and also inspiring other people, I think writing is one of those ways that you can do so. And even if you don't publish it, even if you just write it for yourself, if you do journaling or whatever you want to do, I think it does a few things for you. One, writing clears the clutter from your mind. So I'm a whiteboard guy. What I mean by that is when I do a lot of thinking, I like to stand in front of the whiteboard, or you could do it on your computer too, however that works for you. But I like to do actually a whiteboard with a marker. And I write the stuff down on a whiteboard and kind of go through that thinking process for myself. There's different models and tools you can use for that, but even if you just use a blank sheet of paper or a blank whiteboard, you can do it. Producer Brian, my friend here, he likes to do stuff on the butcher board or those easel pads and stuff like this, and write them up and put the stickies up there. Same process, right? You physically put pen to paper, and I think one of the things I like about putting pen to paper is it also helps me memorize. Like, let's say memorize that like word for word, but really kind of there's a mechanical portion of writing, physically writing, that has you learn, and it goes from your hand to your brain. Now, I'll tell you something interesting about that is I'm dyslexic, right? So spelling, these things are really off for me, but that the concept of me actually just writing things down, or typing them, writing on the whiteboard, it really does help me memorize or remember these things, and I'm able to go through that process. So, yeah, as a guy who struggles with that, writing you'd think would be something I'd hate to do, but it's actually something that really helps me learn, and really brings this back to my head. Writing also lets you make a bank of knowledge. It kind of goes the same idea, right? Is that as you write, you go from having a basic understanding of something, and it helps you become knowledgeable in that subject. So also when you're writing, if you're doing like long form writing, like straight paper or something like this, you have to go do the research, understand what you're doing, and put that into a digestible bites for yourself. And that being said, that helps you build your bank of knowledge, but then it also helps you grow, right? Because as you build that bank of knowledge, as you do this, your research, and you understand, and you have all these books and papers and things that you're reading through to be able to help you with your information, you're going to bring that into you, and you're also going to see personal growth. It also helps you understand where you are in your process, right? In your life, if you will, and understand what is going around you. So a good example of this is 5G versus the Internet of Things and mesh networking. These are three things that, as they're coming across, I needed more information on. And so I went through and I wrote a few white papers specifically on how 5G will help with communication issues, how the Internet of Things is going to be working in the future, and how mesh networking actually helps through communications, especially in a overwhelmed grid or a grid down when it comes to your cell network and stuff like this. And that helps you become wiser, right? Having wisdom comes with knowledge, and that's how that works. Now let's take this process to the next level. Right. So one of the things that helps you when you're writing is you are working to learn to understand that process. Now, what if we take that to the next process, to the next level, and help you teach to the next level? Right. So one of the things I learned when I was serving as a corpsman with the United States Marines is one of the processes we called learn something, uh, do something, and teach something. Learn something, do something, teach something. And it's not just some military gimmick for learning. It's been around for ages, right? The cavemen, for instance, had to go through that process as well. But however, Richard Feynman put this process to work, and he's a I was like Peace Prize, but Nobel winner of economics, and they call it the Feynman technique. It's a method of learning that unleashes your potential, that forces you to develop that deeper understanding. And I'm sorry, I said economics. I'm a physicist, right? Which is what's a physicist now, right? Those hard science guys, you know. But the idea here is this ability to explain complicated subjects to others in simple terms, right? And using jargon and vague words and all that kind of stuff really reveals this lack of understanding. And basically the idea here is if you have somebody who's explaining something to you in these complicated ways and they can't break it down easily, they probably don't have an understanding. Now, well, goes back to writing. So choose that concept that you want to learn about. So for instance, for me with mesh networking, I wanted to learn more about mesh networking, how it worked, what it means, like how does it relay things across the line. And I have to break it down to where I can explain it to anybody, explain it to my 9-year-old daughter, for instance. So you have to reflect on it, right? Reflect on what this means, and then refine that down to the core of what it is, and then simplify what this means. And you should do this in your writing as well, right? Reflect on it, refine to it, and simplify it. There's a reason why newspapers are written to an 8th grade, maybe even a 6th grade level, depends on who you speak to about it. And because it's not that they're using simple words necessarily, right? It's just simplifying the concept so that anybody can understand it, right? Because if you write complicated, it doesn't necessarily really project what you need to have to everybody, because there's going to be times when people don't understand these things, what the words are necessarily, or even what the concept is. So you have to break it down, organize that, review it, and then publish it. So let's go a little bit deeper on this, into what this technique is. So let's choose the concept that you want to learn. What topic are you curious about? So once you identify that topic, take that blank sheet of paper. Like I said, I like to use the whiteboard when I do these things, and I write them out in a way where it breaks it down for myself, right? Like I said, I have to break it down so I understand what it means, right? And then get more knowledge about it. And then when I write it, I'll write it so they understand it. So write everything you know about that subject, what you want to understand, this outline, if you will, right? As if you were teaching, like I said, to the child. So once you learn more about the topic, right, then you can move that to a written document, to a typed document. So as you type this out, write it as if you're explaining that to that 12-year-old, to that child. Because if you can explain it to somebody who's has no knowledge of things, and they understand and they walk away with a better understanding, then you can explain this to everybody else, right? And anyone can make the subject complicated. Anybody can make it. I can make tying shoes complicated. What the process is, right? But if you can break that down, then you have a better understanding of it. Because if you could break it down to the core, understand that, that's when you really don't know that's when you have a basic understanding of what this is. Again, then we go back to the idea of reflect, refine, and simplify, right? And then organize and review, and then test that review, right? Test your understanding of the real world. Run it by somebody else. Have that person that you can really have great deep conversations with about that subjects. Again, reflecting here with Brian here on the show that he's the producer here over at Sitch Radio, and him and I have really great conversations and reflect on topics, right? And I think that's having that sounding board is really important, right? Now, whether it's a sounding board, if you're a writer, right, you have people have editors, right, as your sounding board. People like that are in your life that can really take and understand and say, hey man, you're off basis, or hey, I don't understand this, or maybe this is too simple, right? Those type of things. The most successful people in the world can take complicated subjects and explain them. And I think that's when we look at people that are we love to listen to, right? Like George Carlin, for instance, a great comedian. He's able to take these complicated subjects, make them funny, and make them understandable, and people can walk away. He was more than a comedian, right? I think he was really our day's Socrates. He was a philosopher. He understood what life was about, and he was able to break them down into simple, complex, and make us laugh at the same time. So you understand this technique, you can avoid getting fooled by others, right? So the next time you're listening to someone explain something and using jargon and complicated terms, ask them to explain it in simple terms. And if they get frustrated, it's a sign they don't really fully understand what they're talking about. Because if they did, they'd be able to explain it better. As they say in the military and the public safety world, let's break it down Barney style, which means make it simple. Take a look at HST. We talked about this a second with our mesh networking process as an example. It's often a great reason. It's a great reason to have Titan HST, to tell you the truth. Simply, the best way to explain it is our app turns your phone into a repeater of sorts and sending messages to other devices that have the app. It's as simple as that. It goes back to back to back to back. In this way, if the cell system is down or overused, you can still use and receive messages and critical notifications. Simple to use, easy to use. Anybody can do it. And if I can do it, y'all can do it as well. And thank you everyone for being here today with us today. And visit Titan HST for all your communication needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And join us next week. Until then, stay safe and stay hydrated.